All right, it's the Pete Sousa Show. We are live here from the Alico building, Waco, Texas, the home of Rogue Media. We're presented by Slovacics. Of course, can't forget Crawford Austin Properties, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, and the list goes on. It's over my shoulder. I was telling Corey Dickman, the guy who runs this place, yesterday, we got to go out and see our friends at Socorro Family Ford. They are out in West, and they are awesome. The show, actually, we have a bit of a melancholy start, although it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like Scotty just opened a beer with the Irish crickets. But actually, that was a Diet Mountain Dew or a Mountain Dew, just a Mountain Dew. And yeah, man, I just come across my social media feed that Ben, Kirk Herbstreit's dog, has died. And look, I'm bummed. That dog was awesome just from being a fan. Seeing that dog around was like, I don't know, it did something for me every time I would see him on camera. But let's get to the statement that Kirk Herbstreit put out. He said, this is really hard to write, but so many of you have loved and cared about Ben that I wanted to let you know. We found out today the cancer had spread throughout Ben's organ, and there was nothing left we could do. We had to let him go. I've had dogs my whole life, but Ben was one on one. I think he meant one of one. He was smart, loving, gentle, patient, inquisitive, and welcoming to all. Always a big smile and soft tail wag. He and I could communicate. He and I always understood each other and had each other's backs. He was with me more than anyone at home and traveling with me for work. Such an easygoing companion. Hard day, but he will live within all of us forever. God, please bless this majestic soul, and thank you for putting him in my life for the last 10 years. A true blessing. Love you, Ben. And he's got the prayer emoji. That, Kirk Herbstreit, a couple things. He's got instant credibility with us. He's been in our homes since, I think it was like 1997. It was when Craig James left Game Day. Herbstreit auditioned for the job and actually got the job and was shocked that he got the job. And I think he was around like 27 at the time. And of course, that was a complete life changer for Kirk Herbstreit to get the job on College Game Day. And then, these are the early iterations of Game Day where it was like an hour, maybe it was an hour and a half. Now it's like a bonanza that seemingly lasts all morning into the day, or all night into the morning, and then all morning into the rest of the day. And these guys have become household names. And, the show with its pomp and circumstance and celebration of college football is truly awesome. It gives you the feel for college football and why we love it so much every Saturday. And Kirk Herbstreit has been a big part of that. We've watched him also, like, after Lee Corso mentored him, he now takes care of Lee Corso. You can tell that their relationship and their bond is like as strong as it could possibly be with one coworker to another. So all that to say, like, you trust Kirk Herbstreit. Like, you understand that this dog was like so important to him. My brother Kevin and his wife Patty, they didn't have any kids. Of course, Kevin passed a couple years ago from cancer, but they didn't. He's right here over my shoulder. I'm wearing one of his sweatshirts today. But they didn't have any kids, and they had a dog named Jackson. And Jackson, Kevin, like me, went through a lot of stuff in life, and he ended up getting sober. And he got sober with his dog was there all the time. He made a major change in his life. And Kev ended up, he died sober after being sober for like 12 years. And Jackson dying was a huge deal to Kevin and Patty, to the point where, I mean, speaking honestly, my brother Mike and I are like, he was a dog, right? And look, I've been a dog guy my whole life, and I've also been a stuffer of emotions as well. But Kev really was out there with how upset he was about losing this dog. And pets mean a lot to us, dude. Like, I look at my dog sometimes and I'm like, I've literally said out loud, I don't know what I'll do when you're gone. That's probably right after I MF her for doing something she wasn't supposed to do. But I am over the moon about my dog. And me, again, most of my time with my dog has been as a single guy, and it's just been the two of us. And we have like gone on this journey together and have had like a nice little ascension together. And I know how meaningful she is to me. And the thing about Kirk Herbstreit and this dog Ben is it meant so much to so many of us. I remember it was after my first game this year. It was like Baylor Tarleton, or maybe it was a UNT game, and my buddy Matt, who spots with me, like he called me it was a Monday night game, and he was like, it was a Monday night college game. I think it was USC LSU, and he was like, "Dude, Kirk Herbstreit's dog is just like walking around the booth on camera." And Matt was like, this was new to Matt because it was the first time he had done a game with me spotting, and he like knows a little bit of the behind the scenes now. He's like, how in the world does that happen? Like, and I'm like, honestly, I think it's like all good. And clearly it was. And that was a moment that, like, not on purpose. And the cool thing about Herbstreit was like there was very little moments that felt like they were conjured up or were disingenuine. When you saw that dog, it was almost like, sometimes, of course, on purpose, but a lot of times it was just like, hey, man, this is me and my best friend. So a total bummer. God bless Ben. God bless dogs. And yeah, that sucks. And I'll be interested to see it. So, I mean, all right, you want to hear one of the most bizarre things you'll hear all day? I'm now more inclined to watch Thursday Night Football to see how if Kirk responds at all to Al Michaels tonight on the Amazon broadcast when it's Cincinnati and the Ravens. I truly am, because I feel a connection and a relationship to Kirk Herbstreit and his dog Ben. So God bless Ben. God bless Kirk Herbstreit. And hey man, I think a lot of us have a real soft spot in our hearts for our pets, particularly dogs. If you don't, I'm gonna kind of look at you funny, right? Like if you don't like dogs, I don't know. I even like cats now. So you like cats?
No.
Scotty's not a cat guy.
I'm a big time dog guy.
Well, hold on. All right, let's talk cats. Why no cats?
It's very simple. It's science. You can look up all the studies, right? The bottom line is,
I'm in a conversation with my girlfriend.
I'll take that as a compliment. I know how much you like her.
Love her. Yeah.
No, the bottom line is, dogs, most of them, have a capacity to sense your emotions and respond to them. They generally seem to communicate that they care. They want to please you, right? And that you really get that relational thing going. And I know some people have that with their cats, but cats, broadly speaking, generally do not have that disposition. Cats generally can tolerate you and can coexist with you, but they are not going out of their way to make your life more enjoyable. And there's studies, there's that one famous one that, like, if your house cat was big enough, it would kill you and eat you. Have you seen that study?
No.
I'll send that to you.
Oh, don't send me that. No, do not send me that.
It's like a real thing. It's like a real thing.
What's after that? The one about Santa Claus not being real? Don't send me that shit. No, that is, I was the same way. And then I ended up dating somebody that had a couple cats, got close to the cats. And, now, when I see feral cats, I'm like, look at that. You're an OG. Like you're out there surviving. Like I'll put like water and food outside for a feral cat. And when he comes up, I'll be like, what's up, gangster? Like those feral cats are.
Yeah. I'm not saying I hate all cats always.
Yeah.
I would never live with one though.
All right.
But I'll have a dog as long as I can, as often as I can.
Well, to your dog point, there is a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it was at my parents' house. My brother had it for a college course.
I've heard of that.
Dale
who
Carnegie.
wrote that? Okay. Yeah.
It's a huge book. And it's, I've never read it because I struggle reading anything. I probably would listen to it. But there was a chapter there. I was home at my mom's house and, you go to take care of your business. And I was like, let me grab a book. So I go to the bathroom and I'm reading this book. And it talks about how dogs are the only animal or being really that are so likable they don't have to work for a living, like most dogs. Like, think about it. Like, you come home from work, like, we provide for dog. When you buy a dog, you are providing for a dog. This dog doesn't work, right? Like, it just is there. And it's because more often than not, your dog has, like you said, a sense for how you're feeling.
Yeah.
They are loving, they're positive if they're bred in the right environments, right?
I would say a dog provides companionship.
Yes.
And a cat might be your roommate. And there's a difference.
or an adversary, as far as you're concerned.
And so some people need a roommate. That's good.
Yeah.
There's a place for that. And some people want a friend, and you get a dog. The only other animal I've heard consistently that does that, or horses do that. That's why there's a lot of therapy. Treatment that comes with horse riding and being around horses. But obviously, not everybody can buy a horse and have it in their apartment. So
no, all right, that's good. That's a good point, Scotty. I'm happy. So I'm happy we started off talking about Ben Herbie and paying the pup tribute. Cam, what are you looking at? Like, we've been talking about Ben for too long. See, Cam's one of those people you look at like kind of sideways. We've been having some really good dog talk, all right, and how they affect you. See, do you have? But it's not your dog. Well, I talked about my dog. Okay. Cam Stewart coming up in segment 3. We already can't wait. I did want to talk this morning about an issue that I have with my basketball team. If you're thinking I'm talking about the Sixers, if you're familiar with this show, someone in the Northeast that keeps up with us, I'm not talking about the Sixers. First of all, I feel like I'm pretty down, I guess, now that I start to really think about it. Again, I mentioned I'm a stuffer of emotions. The Sixers are just flat out annoying. And like disappointing, and tough to get behind. And Villanova, like, it's becoming harder and harder not to understand and acknowledge that they just suck. They lost their first game of the season to Columbia after an unimpressive first win of the season. They play NJIT, another home game, a New Jersey Institute of Technology, in case you're wondering at home. And then on Tuesday, now this is where I start to get skin in the game. They go to play St. Joe's. And if they lose to St. Joe's, I'm going to be pissed because they lost to St. Joe's 2 years ago on a last-second shot. And I think they might lose to them again this year. And like, that's an issue. If you're where I'm from and you're a Villanova fan, like, Villanova's kind of looked at as like a bit of the wine and cheese crowd. And, that's not true, by the way, but that's how it's looked at. It's like a much smaller version of Duke, North Carolina. And then St. Joe's are like these rough and tumbled city people who put themselves through school and they're tough and blue collar. That's not true. Okay. But that's the message they try to send. Really what it is, they were like on the bottom of our shoe for decades, still are, really. And playing Villanova was the Super Bowl for St. Joe's, which it will be again. And for Villanova, playing St. Joe's was just another game against a team in the Big Five. Sometimes it became a bigger deal, but very rarely. The 1 year St. Joe's had where everybody was out of their minds was the year they lost to Oklahoma State in the Elite Eight. I mean, they were a favorite to go to the Final Four. And they lost to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State went to San Antonio. St. Joe's went home, and you haven't heard much from them since then. So anyways, that's the state of Villanova affairs and basketball is discouraging as far as like my teams are concerned. Basketball last night, though, a lot of teams playing their opening game. Cam and I talked about Baylor and Gonzaga. Baylor plays on Saturday against Arkansas. Arkansas played last night. They won. It's fun, though. Like, I watched SportsCenter a little bit last night before going to bed because it's enough of all the election stuff. I haven't watched SportsCenter in a while, and it was awesome. It was awesome because SportsCenter still does a great job. Like, where else am I going to see highlights? I mean, I guess online if I'm digging, but like to naturally see highlights of the Arkansas game was cool. Like, I was like, oh, like there's Cal, like, Arkansas won by 19. There was a run early in the game. That was a lot of fun. Also saw highlights of UConn winning their first game against Sacred Heart. They really blew the doors off them. And some of these teams you can tell are just really good going into the season. Like, they're beating these teams by 40. like UConn did in their first game. And you think it's all good, right? Like the banner was raised, so 2 championships for UConn. They're looking for a second or a third straight title, a three-peat for UConn. But you want to see a great coach and the mind of a great coach, unfiltered. Let's listen to Danny Hurley post-game last night.
This year, I think they got a pretty good team. So overall, I think the things obviously I was happy about. The rebounding, we go plus 22 there with the rebounding. 0 offensive rebounds for them. They out-rebounded Temple, so it was they go to the glass. So it was good to see that. Obviously, love the assists. Anytime you see that number in the 20s, you feel good about it. I think the turnovers were a byproduct of just opening night, bizarre shit, and then I don't know. I hate opening night, so it's like the worst day of the year. And I don't think the thing that drives me out of coaching is how you feel when you wake up on opening night and you have no idea what your team's about to go do. So.
And there was more too. I kind of screwed that up. I didn't send Scotty the full clip I wanted to. But he talked about, when the banner went up or was unveiled in the rafters and stores prior to the game, you saw Danny Hurley did put his fist up. And he said to the media after the game, that lasted for literally 30 seconds. And then it was all the stress and all we look at these coaches, right? And they make a lot of money, especially, college basketball and college football. Paul Feinbaum says it like, if you're Kirby Smart and you're going to complain about, the portal and recruiting, like that's on you, dude. You're getting paid enough money where if you're going to do it, you got to do it. Like there's a whole lot that comes with it. But Danny Hurley is another side where I don't think he's like ultimately complaining about the state of college basketball and where it is. That's just a genuine evergreen version of a coach who is getting ready to start a season. And it's night in, it's night out, it's constant stress, constant worry. And that's what it takes to be a great coach. I mean, let me tell you let me make you a promise. Okay. There's way more coaches like, Mike Krzyzewski, who has to miss a season because of like an ailing back and crazy stress, and somebody who's just like stoic, and you kind of, he's MFing guys in every huddle, and he's just not that happy, right? Like to be around genuinely doesn't seem like he's loving life. There's way more of them than there are like a Phil Jackson, right? Who's like somebody who is like the meditator and the guy like, and Phil Jackson was still a prick to be around. But like these coaches are not, there's just not that fun and fluffy, and their life kind of sucks because a lot of them, and I say suck, like you get what I'm saying. It's all relative, but like there's a lot of guys who they would be doing this if there was no money in it. Like Danny Hurley, best example. He will be coaching at St. Anthony's for his dad after he fought his brother Bobby for the job. And Danny clearly would get it because he seems like he's a grittier coach. But like they don't want, it's not about money for a lot of these guys. And it's amazing the stress and the problems. And a lot of it they put on themselves. But hey, man, you want to be a great coach, like this is what it takes. So that is a version. Like that right there is a happy, is a coach who should be happy going in after three-peating. He doesn't look thrilled about basketball, and I love that because truly deep down within, he is thrilled about basketball, but winning is all that matters. And when that's all that matters, man, there's a lot of stress that comes with that. The one guy I could say who isn't like that and is extremely successful is Scott Drew. And I always compare Coach Drew to Coach Jay Wright because Jay was similar, but not so much. Jay was always really, he still is who he is. But he's a little more stoic and buttoned up with Scott than Coach Drew. I think Coach Drew really, one of the things that, and we talked about it with the football team and Sawyer Robertson last week, there is a faith component and a joy component that just steamrolls through Baylor. And I love it. I love being within an earshot of it, to be able to be around it even a little bit because it works. you go to a Baylor practice or a shoot around. And the first time I lived in Waco for 7 years before the first time I called like a Baylor basketball game last year. And so you go to a shoot around, and what are they doing? They're starting off in a circle. And come to find out this is a gratitude circle. And like everybody goes around and says, maybe it's changed this year, but this is what I took for it. Everybody goes around and says what they're grateful for. And then, somebody speaks up about something they're going through. And it's just like, wow, like this is really happening. Like, having worked in the NBA and stuff, I can tell you there's no gratitude circles. And it was really cool to see that, and to see that, man, this guy is the real deal. And then there's always a story I tell when I went to a game in Morgantown to call it for ESPN. And I showed up at shoot around, and Matt Nelson, the sports information guy for Baylor, told me what time to come to shoot around. So I go to shoot around, and I'm sitting there, and so then Coach Drew, because we're in Morgantown, and Coach Drew knows me. I've called a couple games at this point. He knows my face, knows me as the guy from Waco that calls ESPN games. And he starts to point at me, and I'm like, oh man, like he's going to throw me out of practice. So then he starts to point at me. He's talking to Matt Nelson, and the two of them walk over to me. So I'm like, oh boy, like what's going to happen? And so they walk over to me, and Coach Drew goes, hey man, how did you get here? And I go, oh, I flew into Pittsburgh and I drove from there to Morgantown. He's like, you got to tell me, you got to come with us. There's no reason you should be doing that. And I'm looking at Matt, like, I'm like, is this okay? And again, like in coach speak, he was very genuine. He was like, we get those smaller planes, there's no chance, but we come out here in a big plane. Like, dude, he's like, we're going right to BYU after this. So we can't bring you home. And I was like, wow. So then I go to call the game. But I was like overwhelmed with how, like, I think you guys get it, how awesome that was. And then I sit down next to the guy I'm calling the game with. I'm like, are we allowed to do that? Like, he's like, I live in a world where I just don't ask. I would have gotten on the plane and gone with them. You ask later. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, being a coach is not easy. Being Dan Ingham is not easy. Somehow we got him back up here again for another Thursday filled with football. And I got some questions for Dan, specifically about the Dallas Cowboys. So I want you to stay tuned. Of course, we're taking it to the bank, First National Bank of Central Texas. The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, rolls on after this.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our...
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down to afterwards, was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to. The only thing we have to look forward to. That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned kind of the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Sports.
Okay. Dan Ingham in the studio, baby. Check him out. I mean, Dan, by the way, this shot we got you on now, I mean,
man, y'all cleaned it up. Looks nice and tight.
Looking like a gazillion bucks,
good
man.
Background right there. Yeah, I had to put on the long sleeve shirt today, so.
First National Bank of Central Texas. You got me going, by the way, with my 3/4 zips now.
That's right.
I'm all about it.
I've worn them twice already this week. So.
I bought one a couple weeks ago thinking of you.
You need it like Pete Sousa show branded, baby.
I think
go full corporate, for Rogue Media, ride for the brand.
Yeah, don't tell those guys. There'll be a mandate now around here. All right, I want to start with talking to you a little bit about, first of all, some news hot off the press. I want to get your reaction.
Good.
Well, not good. Did you see Ben Herbie passed away? Kirk Herbstreit's dog.
I did see that. Yes, man, that's rough, man. Like he was a staple of the college football season. So I know anyone who is a dog lover knows that's a kick in the teeth right there. So
it is a kick in the teeth. And I even went as far to say that I'm probably going to watch Thursday Night Football tonight to see if Kirk Herbstreit talks about it at all. I mean, like he's become that much of a focal point for me, at least, and something that interests me.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to at some level if you're Amazon, just because that dog had become kind of a star.
Yeah.
So I think if it might be come across a little gratuitous if we didn't even know who this dog was.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I think if you're the producer, you've put it in the show rundown already.
Well, now if you're now let me ask you this question: who gets the awesome job of telling Al Michaels that at some point in the open we're going to talk about Kirk Herbstreit's dog?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's not much Al Michaels hadn't seen or handled in his life, so I imagine he's going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And they might even find a moment. No, you handle it in pregame, don't you? You just get it out of the way.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
But Amazon is 0 for 1 acknowledging stuff pregame. I remember last year, and obviously it was her choice, but all that Carissa Thompson madness when she said she had made up a few sideline reports.
I forgot about that.
That was another thing I watched. That was right before, Dan, you're familiar with this, the night before Food for Family. So the last Friday in November before Thanksgiving. And I was like, I'm going to see what she says. She never addressed it, which, by the way, was a pretty good job by her. Kind of went away. It was good PR. Kind of like went away.
There was many meetings had on that, I guarantee you.
Did you ever run into that? Anybody in sports like that you work with that was covering a game where you felt like, I don't know that this is like altogether legit?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
I hope not. Yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't have. I think it does have more often, and we don't know about it. Like people like, if you're a young reporter out on the scene.
So I have no doubt that it's happened.
Yeah.
Especially as anxiety driven, a 23-year-old just out of college. Oh my gosh, Dan Ingham just told me I've got to get a package and 2 Bosots by the 6 o'clock. And I have to get 3 stories together.
Yeah.
I don't have a story idea. I'm sure it's happened. Yeah.
How much do you think local news still matters?
I think it does. I mean, so like you see in terms of nothing like the golden era of TV back in the 70s, 80s. But I mean, like you see these studies, especially when it comes to politics, like when you ask like people who they trust the most, it's still their local newscast.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, that's not always translating into tons of viewers and dollars. Now, good companies and good stations have figured out ways how to monetize their digital platforms. And I think both you and I worked for one that did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't work there, but I can say that. I mean, they're still Gray Television is one of the more respected ownership groups in the nation, but it's challenging because just the ad dollars are not like they used to be. And just because the numbers of people watching the newscasts aren't the same, period. Yeah. I mean, like I don't watch a full newscast very often. I mean, it's hard to find.
No, it's got to be on almost by accident or if something. If it's a weather event, right? But I'm with you. But there's still a big drive. People still go there. That's where the political money goes. It's so interesting.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, like it's Julie Hayes. I mean, if there was a big moment in Waco, Texas, people are waiting to see what Julie Hayes has to say. Still,
100%.
And so she still has that that built-in equity.
Or Brady Taylor.
100%.
Right? Like, so those are two people.
And I'm sure you've gotten this too, especially in my world where I coach my kids' little league teams and then I'm involved with Baylor softball. Hey, Dan, we text Brady real quick and see what the weather's going to be like. I've gotten that more times. And so I was like, hey, Brady, how's it going? And I always feel bad because like, I'll look down. The last text message was a month ago to Brady, and it was about weather. Also, you know,
Yeah,
like, yeah. He's always cool about it. But like,
he's awesome about it.
Hey, Glenn Moore wants to know: is it going to storm
But
tonight?
that's who wants to know.
Yeah,
right? I'm sure. Yeah,
yeah, it happens, man.
Finally, Mitch Thompson they just go back and forth now. Mitch is the guy, like he goes to Brady because they know each other from MCC. And,
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
His wife. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about Baylor than the Cowboys. The celebration around that TCU win.
Yeah.
For you and seeing that 2013 and 2014 teams coming back to get honored, what did you make of that? I mean, first of all, it just felt great. The whole thing I thought felt great. I thought if a couple things had gone the wrong way, it might not have been that awesome. But did you go to the game?
I was there for the tailgate up until the game. The bank had a big tailgate party, and then I share my season tickets with my brother-in-law, so he got the TCU game. So
okay, what was the vibe around the stadium pregame? I mean,
great,
yeah,
because the weather held off, and it was nice temperature. It was awesome. It felt like because I was nervous, because we do one big tailgate a year. Like a month ago, I was like, man, are we about to have a 2-win team for a tailgate?
Yeah.
And the vibe was cool. It felt like a game day. It was cool.
That's crazy. So you were worried, right? Because it's like you're putting on you're hosting almost.
Yeah, I mean, put a little money in it. You want it to be good. So,
yeah. Well, that's cool that Baylor was able to meet the challenge and come through for you in two respects, before and after. What about the Art Briles situation? Like they had something over at George's. Obviously, he was still celebrated throughout the week. Were you surprised to see the players and their allegiance to him, like on the field? For somebody who hadn't been around it, I was a little surprised.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Probably because I've been around those players. I know some of them personally. They would do just about anything for Art Briles. They love him. So, I mean, just from an outsider, I thought it worked out perfectly. They had a great celebration at George's.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember Sammy Citrano. He's quite proud of that. He did a good job helping put that together. And people involved, I would tell you, loved it. They had a really good time. And then to Art's credit, they said, hey, you guys go enjoy that game. And they did. And they honored him at halftime. All their families were there, a huge turnout. So I think everybody kind of came out a winner. I know that there's a lot of fresh wounds, and we don't have to relitigate everything. And I'm not smart enough to tell you all the details and who's right, who's wrong, but I do know I thought it worked pretty well on Saturday. And I'm sure there's some people that are mad that Art wasn't involved in the celebration, but at the end of the day, there were a lot of winners of that deal.
I totally agree. Took it right out of my mouth. Who was your favorite player from those two teams? If you have one that you loved to cover or was just like came at you with pop as a sports guy.
Ahmad Dixon was kind of fun. He was a hoot. Is a hoot. He Midway guy, really intense defensive player. And just always a good soundbite. Sometimes sound bites that I think his coaches probably wish he wouldn't give, but as an old TV guy, you love that. So Ahmad Dixon was a lot of fun.
Was it cool for you to kind of here's a guy from Friday Night Football at Midway, and then you probably had a relationship with him there, and now here he is. That's got to be awesome.
I loved, and I don't get that as much. I felt like this cool joy every time I'd see someone, on that we do on Sports Friday. It's always going to be Sports Friday to me, and we would see them do well. Whether it was like guys, back in the day, not many of them went to Baylor, but then when Art came in, he got a lot of local guys that did well. But it was always fun to see guys do well. Ramonce Taylor back in the day from Belton, they went to UT. I mean, it's just fun to watch guys like that do so well.
You can relate with me on this. You and I called a high school game recently, like within the past 3-4 years, where Rashawn Sanford was starring for either Shoemaker or I forget exactly. Cam, do you know Rashawn Sanford, where he went to school from Houston? Okay, so he was a
clean ISD
guy. So he went to Houston, but we have that Big 12 show we do. And if I can give this guy any love, I'm just like, oh, there's Rashawn Sanford. Everybody's like, what are you talking about? He had 4 carries. But there's a kind of connection you have with those folks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Cowboys. Do you think the team has quit on Mike McCarthy?
I don't know about that. I'm just not sure they're that good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw they put up no. So short answer, no.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we'll find out more this week. I mean, what are they 3-5? I mean, the season is not over.
Isn't that nuts? It's not.
I know, like in a 17-game season where you get 7 teams to make the playoffs, they're far from out of it. I looked up because I was curious, like how far, like, they have like the NFC standings. Like right now, they're 2 games out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And I know it's not the same as baseball because you play, but I mean, in like 3 weeks, they could be a playoff team. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen because Dak Prescott's out. It sounds like at least a month. And Cooper Rush is not bad, by the way.
No.
And he's won games in this backup role before, but I wouldn't use the word quit. No.
This, by the way, this does set up for like an interesting situation. Like, let's, God forbid, but let's say they steal one against the Eagles on Sunday. And then you got a little Cooper Rush momentum, who, by the way, was more than serviceable the last time he had to step up in like an elongated stretch. And I don't think by any means he's taken Dak's job. But
can I just answer your question? No.
Yeah.
The answer to your question is no.
Yeah.
If Dak Prescott is healthy, he will be the starting quarterback. They're paying him $260 million or whatever it is. He is going to be the starting quarterback.
Could you imagine?
No.
No.
Fun fact on Cooper Rush, he about a decade or so ago, he went into Stillwater, Oklahoma and led Central Michigan to an upset win over Oklahoma State when OSU was still good.
Dude, it was a Hail Mary.
Back when OSU was good at football. So
it was a Hail Mary. It was the last play of the game. I was there spotting for
Are you serious?
I was spotting for Justin Kutcher, who'd called the game on Fox. So I was there. And I couldn't believe it.
And I remember Mike Gundy after the game said that's an NFL quarterback, not just because of that. He said that's an NFL quarterback.
Yeah,
you can tell. Yeah. And he's had a nice, backup quarterback in the NFL is still a pretty good job. And there are worse gigs to have.
Well, and it shows he's entrenched in very good standing, obviously, with the Cowboys organization.
Exactly.
He's been there for a while. As a fan, you got to feel pretty good. Okay, it's handing it to Cooper Rush. I think that. I don't think the team has quit on the Cowboys on Mike McCarthy at all. But you know what has occurred to me? This is an organization, and it happens. They just missed their window. I mean, they missed it. Last year was this little regime, whatever you want to call it. That was their window. Home field advantage. You kicked ass all season long, and then you lay an egg against Green Bay, and now you're talking about you can't get guys to go to practice. There's discipline. It's just it happens that fast.
And you had your window. There was about a 4 or 5 year period where Dallas had the best offensive line in football.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the best. And now those guys have aged out, retired, or hurt. I mean, and now that just seems like a blink of an eye. That's all gone too. I mean, think about that. For consistently, the Cowboys had the best line in football. Everybody said it, and now you got maybe a couple playoff wins out of it.
Watching Dak Prescott, do you think at all, like, what do you think he lacks?
I don't know. I'm not smart to tell you what he lacks. I just know that, like, there's the elite 2 or 3, 4 or 5 guys, and then there's 6 or 7 guys after 8 guys, and he's in that group right there. And I don't know what turns you from a Dak Prescott to a Patrick Mahomes. That's probably not even fair. Or who's else?
Yeah.
Or a Matthew Stafford. You know what I mean? I don't know what the difference in that is. I don't know, but I just know he's not. And so, and maybe you're not till you do it. Also, maybe that's what it is, because Eli Manning was not elite necessarily. He's good, but he won 2 Super Bowls when it mattered, So I don't know what that little thing is that changes right there.
I got to just check the temperature before we get to your picks. Like Oklahoma State, like what's
Coach
shut it down.
Lutz is his name, I think. Are we talking about men's basketball?
I'm talking about men's basketball.
I'm
no,
joking.
not.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
Football. I mean, like, dude, I think that people are pretty upset. There were a lot of fans that are pretty upset with Gunn. Apparently, he made some pretty stupid remarks this week, which is, he's done before. About saying who fans who criticize him or have no right to, or idiots or whatever, which is kind of silly. You're 3-6, coach. You're allowed to criticize them.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, unless they win their last 3, I think they're going to end there. It's about a 20-year bowl streak.
Yeah.
So there was like the 2nd or 3rd longest streak in all of college football. So barring a miracle, that's over. So I don't know. I think he's earned enough equity. If they have one bad year, but you back it up another year, then you got problems, Brian.
Yeah, no, he's for sure
he's got a lifetime contract, man.
All right, so give me your picks. Do you have we're taking it to the bank?
Taking it to the bank. Here we go. All right, we'll start with college football.
Paper,
Utah this year.
I love the paper.
Utah, they stink, right? They're 4-4. Take it to the bank. They're going to finally play well. they're going to beat BYU. Utah plus 3.5 points. BYU's magical run comes to an end. Or at least their undefeated run.
I love that pick, by the way.
Yeah.
I do. I love that pick because Utah plays great defense. They have they're I think like top 10 in the country for points a game. They're giving up 16 points a game.
Yeah.
So you find a way to score a couple of times. I couldn't agree in a moment like this rivalry game. I'm with you on that one. And it's a shame the line isn't higher, so you could do a money line. Go ahead.
That's right. I like it. Oh yeah, that's a good point. You can really do well. All right. New Orleans Saints fired their coach. They have a new coach. It's gonna be the same results. Falcons minus 3.5 easily covers over the Saints. So I like the Falcons and Utah taking it to the bank.
Dan Ingham, First National Bank of Central Texas. They're opening up new locations everywhere.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a bank, you want to make some money.
That's right.
Yeah, or just take care of your money, right?
Either way, we'll handle either.
First National Bank of Central Texas. Thanks so much, Dan.
You got it, Pete.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down to afterwards, was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning. So we love Extraco.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to.
The only thing we have to look forward to. That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned kind of the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Sports.
We got Cameron Stewart. Here he is. Cam, we're going to play a little game.
Can I tell you one thing that's bugging me real quick? You know, we were talking about how I was going to get some tacos. Here's where my palate has come to bite me.
Okay.
This taco place has a great combo meal, $12.50 for 2 tacos, a side of queso, and a soda, which if you've been to these bougie taco places, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
But the taco I like, which is chicken and tater tots with queso on it, is on the kids menu, so it does not count towards the deal.
That says so much about you.
Break your heart.
Make sure you share that with Matt Mosley today.
And what's funny is
I need you to share that with him.
No, because Mosley will make fun of how I'm a child the way I eat, and then question my sexuality when I told him I cooked something for dinner. Like I cooked some pasta, and
Can I tell you something?
He's like, "Oh, how domestic."
I was listening to him and the Doomsday Pod. It's him and Werder. And Mosley makes a comment about cooking. And he goes, you know, I cook, maybe my wife cooks a little bit more, but not much than I do. And then, and then Werder and he kind of go on this thing, like kind of get off my lawn-ish, wife-ish, where it's like a little like they don't cook enough. It was like, okay.
Oh, you think you have it tough? Yeah. You should be with my wife.
Yeah, Mosley's so smart. Like
Mosley's never cooked a meal,
but he doesn't go. He hasn't. I love him for that, but he doesn't go too far down that line, right?
Yeah. Well, stop it there.
All right, Cam. I want to hear the Baylor basketball player you are most excited to watch this year. We got one game in the tank. All right. After that game, with that as a body of work, albeit very small.
Okay.
And far be it from me to put you on the spot. But Is there someone who you like the most?
Far be it from me. If we're talking just excited, like just that very definition of that word, not stripping it down anywhere from there, it is VJ Edgecombe.
Okay.
Don't overthink it. Kid's a freshman, top 5 recruit, potentially top 5 pick in the draft. Everyone who sees him absolutely loves him. Had a great Olympic qualifying tournament with the Bahamas, like playing with and against pros. Did not have a good game. Did not have a good debut. Looked like the lights might have been bright. But he obviously finishes it off with a Sports Center top 10 play.
Yeah.
And, his team played a bad game. He played a bad game. And yet you still get something from that. That is exciting. So in terms of excitement factor, it's VJ Edgecombe.
How about Locked On Baylor? What was the feedback after after 2 nights ago, their loss? I'm sure you've posted a couple episodes. People are commenting. First of all, let me ask you a work question.
Sure.
How it's got to be a little bit of a tightrope now. You've got basketball and football crossing over. And oh, by the way, good for you, Cam. Both teams are very interested.
Yes.
So how do you distribute?
The KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. It's football season, hammer football still. That's not to say don't talk about basketball, because I did a live post game after the first basketball game, which was at, we were doing it live at 1 a.m. So there's still some sacrifice and people care about it, but people are always going to care about football more. And in fact, the Locked On people tell us, they're like, don't overthink this. If you are in football, do football. Because there's schools I'm not calling out this podcaster because I don't know what they do, but a school like UConn, for example, is still in football, but they really, really care about basketball. And so that's more of a tightrope for someone like that, who's got to be like, what is my audience actually looking for? And so for me, until football is done, my audience wants football first and foremost.
I will tell you
so
one thing.
There's still, this is the best part of it, because leading up to the basketball season, the middle of the week, I'm scratching for some stuff. For a coach who doesn't make sound bites, you know what I mean? Wednesday, Thursday, I've already broken down the game. I haven't really gone deep into this next game. So with basketball in there, it's a huge help.
What are some of the topics you've covered recently on Locked On? Past few
Just
days?
in general, or for basketball? For
past
football?
couple episodes. What have we?
Well, let's do this week. This week, obviously, Monday's show was a breakdown of Saturday's win, basically an extension of a post-game show of a big win against TCU, with the last segment looking at Baylor Gonzaga in basketball. We did the live post game for Tuesday's show. That was just all a breakdown of basketball. Then we had yesterday's was I had a guest on from the local Tegna station. So we just talked football because she's covering she's out there on the field and at every Dave presser. So we kind of lean into that a little bit. So that was about what Dave Aranda said to Isaiah Hankins before the game-winning field goal. He apparently told him, "This is you. It's always been you." And so we kind of played on that of it sounded like a line from The Notebook. And
God, I love Dave Aranda.
And I did need to point out, it's always been you, except for that week that we benched you after you missed the 36-yarder against Colorado. But I think we've talked about this. Say what you will about Dave Aranda and his treatment of the media and all that. I do believe that he said that. I do believe that he said that. There's plenty of college coaches who might go up in the podium and say that they said that I wouldn't believe. I do believe Dave Aranda said that.
I need you to change.
And I think he inspires belief.
I need you to change your he does, but change your wording. There's no treatment of the media. There's just
yeah, you're right. There's nothing.
If you were to say, "Hey, Dave, what do you think of the media?" His answer would be, "I don't." Right? I mean, that's
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But it's great to see him doing well. People around the country are happy to see him doing well, Cam.
Yeah. And today, by the way, was a little bit of basketball with football angle, what they need to work on in the bye week. But yes, because I get people who, whenever I'm bitching about Aranda, which happened a lot at the beginning of this year and last year as well, a lot of people from the other team, who we just lost to, would be like, "No, keep y'all's head up. I really like Aranda. I really like that coach you got." And it was everyone but Baylor was liking Dave Aranda. And when you see him 1 week out of 12 you're like, oh yeah, you know what? I like this guy. A brilliant defensive guy, and even keeled, and seems like a nice guy. And when you don't live with it for 12 weeks, that's how you feel. But this has been great momentum for Dave Aranda.
This would be a great question for someone closer to that program, but you're pretty damn close as I can get right now. Do you feel like his role from an aesthetic standpoint, before the season started, he told us, ESPN, before that first broadcast, that he was like John Wick after they killed his dog. Like he was going to dig into the ground, get all his weapons up, and go back to coaching defense, and that was it, right? Like,
yep.
And even during the games, it felt like he was more, okay, offense is on the field, my back's turned, I'm talking defense. Has that shifted? At least from an optic standpoint, I feel like it has. Like he's more involved in everything now, at least on game days. And I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. I'm watching from far away,
yeah.
But am I wrong about that?
I mean, it shifts from an optic standpoint because they're winning. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think, Baylor's won 3 in a row. And to be honest, the defense hasn't played all that well in those 3 wins, but they're winning.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of what my original point was for Aranda, like going into this year, is because I thought he should have been fired last year, and I've been open about that. But in terms of like the personality and the lip smack and the, quiet and the analogies and all that, we want that to work as Baylor fans. Like because we like the guy. When it all boils down to it, we want that to be, a successful formula. It just didn't look like a successful formula, and it hadn't for a long time. And again, he's still got to win 1, maybe 2 more to solidify the fact to solidify his second winning season in 5 years. And so there is still like more of a want to, I guess, than a belief, if that makes sense, from fans and people who follow this team. They want it to be successful, but there's been little room for belief in it. But now you've got it. Now you've got 3 in a row. And while the defense hasn't played great, I think he's had good game plans for the most part. So things are coming up Dave right now.
I that's a pretty fair assessment. And I think that's what you said. That's what the vibe you get from people around Baylor, that people want him to do well. They do.
No one like hates the guy.
No, there's the
like
people
really.
Who,
I mean,
anybody but
the
our
hardcore
Bryles
fans,
too, right?
There's yes, there's that
like
crowd. Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a fantasy world.
Yeah. I did notice, and I like speaking to the Baylor football guys. You mentioned what are they working on the bye week? I can tell you what they're working on.
Really, this is big. I'm going to use this for the show.
Relationships.
There you go.
I have seen more than a handful, or let's say a handful. What's the handful? But I've seen several Baylor football players along the Brazos River with who I would imagine would be their significant others, like boyfriend, girlfriend, walking along the river talking. And I'm like, as I'm jogging, or at this age walking, I'm like, wow, look at this. Like great guys, like
that's that's the exact answer I think Dave Aranda would have given to.
What
are you guys working on this week? Relationships.
But I have, and it makes me proud to be somebody who like supports Baylor. I'm like, look at these guys,
and that's awesome, man. I mean, these guys do not get a lot of free time.
No,
we bitch about the free time that we don't have during football season. Like, to be a student athlete at that level, like that's why I always have not a modicum, a ton of respect for these guys, whatever sport it is, whether you're getting recognized or not.
Yeah.
You have no time, and of course,
think about your significant other, how they're feeling.
Yeah. And like a lot of fans from the outside want to be like, oh, bye week, good. That's more time to work on this opponent, whatever. And it's really kind of not that in the NFL either. It's like
they have a couple practices.
Take a couple days, man. Yeah. Keep it light, reset, rest up. Like that is, we hear it as coach speak all the time, but that is the most important part of a bye week. It's just like, rest, bro. Get healthy.
That's why these players love
Sawyer Robertson. Get healthy.
Sawyer Robertson. He sat right where you are, and I said, "How much?
Just a little bit higher.
How much do you love this second bye?" And he said, "I mean, you could just tell, gushing with approval, right, and gratitude. Like we love it. Like that second bye for this guy these years, or for these guys this year, is amazing. I think, and
which comes back after what 1 or 2 years away because." The old Big 12 schedule did have that because there was only 9 conference games.
Yeah, it's an awesome feature. And I think it is an opportunity for these guys to kind of get back to life a little bit while working on football. I don't know what Baylor's schedule is. I know last week, who was it? I can't remember the team, but a Big 12
TCU.
coach. TCU? No,
That's who
coming
Baylor
off a bye. Coming off a bye. They practiced. Oh, Kansas. Lance Leipold said they practiced twice during the week, and then they had a big, like, kind of ramped it up for Sunday night, like a Sunday night almost like scrimmage. And then you get back to basics, right? Like you back to your regular schedule. But yeah, during the week of a bye week, like that's what it's for. And I think the cool thing is when talking to guys around Baylor, and I think this is something that really we don't even think about this. These facilities, right? The brand new Fudge Center. It's a Rolls Royce of an operation over there.
Yeah.
And those guys, they love hanging out there. And so like, even
They
though
utilize it. Yeah.
What's that?
They utilize it.
Yeah. And so even though, they'll have off, I'm sure a lot of them will be hanging around there watching film on their own accord.
Dude, this is very relevant. I saw a picture of AJ DeBonsa, who's the number 1 prospect basketball 2025 class. Has Baylor in his like top 5, top 6, but the powers that be feel that that Baylor's not a player for him in this point in the process. Picture of him from last night. He was at his sister's high school volleyball game. This kid's from Brockton, which is like 2 towns over from where I grew up. And his sister is going to the same high school that my brother went to. And you'll love this, Pete. It's like classic Northeast Catholic high school.
Yeah.
Cardinal Spellman is what it is. And
Cardinal Spellman.
It's like you kind of, if you're not from around there, like you'll see, Cardinal Spellman. Like, well, that must be, nice prep school. And really what it is a public school with a religion class in the city. Like, I know you've seen plenty of those. Yours was a little bit nicer, but I know you've seen plenty of those. And I was like, dude, I have such a connection, and we can't get him here to Baylor. His sister goes to the same high school my brother went to.
Bringing up another point I want to bounce off you. One more last one.
And all the prep schools in New England are falling behind because all these kids are going somewhere else. DeBonsa plays in Utah. Asamoah, the kid from Lynn who plays for Baylor, top 50 prospect, played in Arizona.
Yeah,
Cooper Flagg played in Florida. What's
forward.
Tilton doing? What's Brewster doing? They don't have the national schedule. They don't have the facilities. That's what made me think of it.
They need to get involved.
I'm telling you.
All right.
I'm telling you.
Do you think that Baylor, because I thought this when I saw that young man's like top 5 or whatever that was
DeBonsa?
posted. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, I wonder how quickly Baylor falls out after that drubbing against Gonzaga. I thought that. I was like, does that affect these guys? Maybe. No, good.
No, I mean, and this is going to sound kind of a shitty way to put this, but like, you're still getting them after losing in the second round 3 straight years.
Yeah.
So I think the DeBonsa thing is going to be a money thing, which, I mean, all the power to the kid. Yeah. I know the figures being thrown around that BYU is offering him $4 million. It's like, whoa, but there's another top 5 kid that Baylor's really hard on, Koa Pete, who was visiting during the homecoming weekend. So they have had a great job of going after the biggest fish in the pond, and if not getting them, being able to pivot. Trey Johnson, they were hard on for a long time. He was number 1 in the class as a junior. He ended up slipping a little bit. They didn't get him. He went to UT, had a great game for the Horns the other night. And they pivoted to VJ Edgecombe, who finished higher after their senior year in the rankings. So they're good at pivoting.
Well, I think Coach Drew has a chance to be in the next Coach Cal if he keeps getting guys picked in the first round.
I hope he'll win a few more titles than Cal.
Well, we'll see them both on display Saturday. Cam will be there. Yeah. All right, we'll be here tomorrow too, 1 p.m. Central Time. Scotty wants everybody to like and subscribe. Let's get that Scotty. Done. Like and subscribe. Share it with your friends, man. Let's get more people involved in this. And thank you to Slovacics. Of course, thank you to Scotty and Cam and Dan Ingham. And thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but you know, he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
But look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy. I'm happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. And you know, we always family, no matter where I'm at.
All is right with the basketball world. God's gift to the game of basketball, the Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals, baby. I don't think the Mavs did anything special. They played well enough to win and win pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought the Celtics didn't show up to play at all, and maybe if they showed some fight in the second half, they would have lost by 15 or so. Is he in the Red Sox Team Hall of Fame?
He is also in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Something about this guy being in the Team Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I did. So,
deserved it, man.
Which seems like it fit.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history.
But he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe more relaxed.
What were a couple of your biggest takeaways? The first thing you referred to that I've spoken to some personnel people and general managers of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that. Has the general manager changed at all in the draft?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
We are Rogue Media Sports.